When Doctor Who came storming back to our screens in 2005, at the helm was acclaimed screenwriter Russell T Davies, a long-term advocate and perpetrator of the show's televisual resurrection for many years preceding its eventual return. While us, the fans, may forever credit and worship Russell for changing our lives irrevocably, how did the man himself comprehend that he was responsible for reviving his own childhood TV series and making it a nationwide Saturday night phenomenon? I was lucky enough to interview the man himself and find out.
I suppose bringing it back from the fan perspective was unusual because, well, in my mind as a fan, it was always the biggest and best show in the world. And in my mind, it was like number one in the ratings and everyone loved it. And I was always acutely aware that that wasn't the fact. So to have that actually happen was very strange. It's something I still think about to this day and still come to terms with. The Doctor Who that the fan in you always wanted it to be actually came into existence. Now, in that week when we were number one in the ratings, that was just amazing. So delightful, but very strange. It's not something I think, this was early days, this was 2005, this was before these days when fandom thinks it owns everything and demands the content of everything. So very, very, the 14, 15 years that have passed, things have changed enormously. Back then, fandom was a lot more modest.
During his tenure as showrunner, Russell wrote an incredible 32 episodes of Doctor Who, from the iconic first episode Road, to the action-packed Utopia,
the Master,
and the Avengers rivaling the Stolen Earth and Journey's End two-part finale. But after writing so many memorable episodes, does Russell have a personal favourite?
It changes every day. I mean, it's very often gridlock, but then I'll watch something like, I'll watch something like, I watched The Satan Pit the other day. I went, that's absolutely brilliant. And, or just the other day, I was watching a bit the other day when, on W, whatever channel it was, and it was The Unicorn and the Wasp, and I remember thinking, that's really clever, because it was like at the end, the Doctor has to do this great big denouement at the end, like Hercule Poirot does in this room full of people. And I remember I didn't have anything for Donna to do in that scene. There's nothing for Donna to do. It's Catherine Tate. It's all the Doctor's scene. I can do that. I remember. And it sounds like a really daft thing, but they gave her a bowl of grapes to eat. And suddenly, with Catherine, the whole thing comes alive. It's amazingly funny, that scene, because she's got a bowl of grapes. So things like that. I know technically I didn't write that episode, but of course I wrote that bit. And so things like that, little details. I don't tend to look at great big scripts and go, I love that script. And with the great ones, you can see the faults, and with the not so great ones, you can see the good bits. But it's moments I tend to remember like that. So right now, it's Donna eating grapes in The Unicorn and the Wasp.
Being a scriptwriter, perfectionism is an inevitable trait. But regardless of this, there's always times when they'd love to jump in the TARDIS to go back and change something. Having written 25 stories, is there anything Russell would utilise time travel for to rectify?
Yeah, I always get asked, it's a very fan question, what would you change, what would you do differently? And I never answer it because, I'll tell you why, because someone, somewhere got cast as guard number 3 in that episode, and they loved it, and they sit there now with their children, their grandchildren, saying I was guard number 3 in that episode, and then I pop up on a little video going, I don't like that episode, and it ruins the whole experience for them. And it's like, so, good luck holding your breath and dying of old age, you won't get that answer out of me.
It's been almost a decade since Russell handed over the reins of showrunner and head writer, and since then, we've seen the show prosper with another 3 Doctors, 7 series and 95 episodes. But does he have any favourite stories or Doctors since he departed and became a fan viewer once more?
Since I've left, I've watched it all. I've loved it. I think Time of Angels. What's it called? Time of Angels. What's the second part called? Flesh and Stone. I think that's an incredible piece of work for us. I think it's an incredibly directed piece of work. I think that's not practically Doctor Who the movie. It's gorgeous. That, I mean, what a director that man is. That stood out at the time, and I think it stood up as a test of time. But it always looks good. It's always very handsome. I watch every single week.
As we contemplate the future of Doctor Who, we ask Russell, the man who grew up and fell in love with the show and orchestrated its triumphant return to 21st century television, what does the future hold for this indomitable TV series?
But, in fairness, I will give you one word of advice. Run.
The future of Doctor Who is I'm sure it'll always be full of bumps and jerks and changes. I mean, I love Jodie Whittaker now. I think it's a glorious time. I love her. I met her the other night for the first time. I think she's absolutely wonderful. That'll come to an end. There'll be, I have no idea. I wonder if it'll pause at some point. It might halt again. Maybe it could do a little refresher. You know, sometimes you sit there and wonder how many more spaceships can be buried under the earth for 2,000 years. But not my choice. So I think these changes will come because I think new producers will come along. But I do think the thing about its return in 2005 is that it's permanent now. If it goes off air tomorrow for some strange reason, then in 10 years' time it'll be back. It's part of the culture now, properly. It was when it had happened once. The fact it's happened twice has absolutely cemented it and underlined it, and it will always be there now.
And before we draw to a close, I asked Russell the most compelling question a Whovian can be asked. What does Doctor Who mean to him?
Doctor Who to me is still exactly the same as it meant when I was a kid. It's just that thing, you know, you spot it a mile off. You know, there's a headline in the newspaper that says government arrests Doctor Who gave drugs to people, and your eye goes, Doctor Who, like that. It's something you spot across a room. It's something you hear if you're in a restaurant and someone says Dalek 5 tables over, you're here and you're listening to it. I mean, that's a fan, that's a child, and that's it obviously changes over time. It's like when you're a child, because I grew up on the classic series, so I probably know every single fact about the classic series there is to know. Every planet ever visited. I know what the embodiment of Gris is and all that obscure stuff. That's no longer true of the modern show, and I include my episodes in that because you're not a child, you're not soaking in it, and you didn't have the formative years soaking in it. So actually, the TARDIS has now visited planets whose names I can't remember, and it's even the Doctor, he and she have met people whose names I couldn't tell you. Including in my own episode, seriously. So I love the fact now it's outstripped me. There's now a body of knowledge of Doctor Who that's greater than my mind can take in. That's brilliant. That's exactly the way it should be. That's a proper empire where you can't even see the borders anymore. So that's very exciting. It'll never stop.